I am recording this video on the last day of my 20s. By the time it goes live, I'll be 30. Ugh. If you have any goodwill in your heart, please use it to forgive me for this review, because I have nothing interesting or profound to say about Snakedance. This video is going to be a slightly incoherent mishmash of thoughts and observations while I attempt to come up with anything worth talking about. Let's do this.
We're in the 80s.
Alright, here we go. As always, I'm looking dishevelled. Got a shirt that's too big for me. The stupid light is as bright as ever. The upstairs neighbour is practicing guitar, so I apologise if you can hear that in the background. Snakedance is a 4-part serial from 1983 and is the second story in the show's celebratory 20th season. You'd think when I bought that big box of pre-owned Doctor Who DVDs back in 2020-something that if it came with Kinder, then surely Snakedance would have been included, right? But no, they kept that one for whatever reason. So I got half of the Mara Tales DVD box set. What a waste of money that was. All that to say that I'm watching it for the first time in the Collection Season 20 Blu-ray box set. Optional updated special effects turned off, mind you. Always got to watch the original dated effects for the first time. Anyway, the Fifth Doctor, Nyssa and Tegan have to deal with the return of the Mara. Well, I say return, but it's implied that it never really left Tegan's mind, which was quickly hand-waved away by the Doctor with some lame line about only the physical form was destroyed or whatever. AKA the wonderfully silly snake prop from Kinder. Man, I wish we had something that fun here. But no, instead we get, I don't know, Nyssa's questionable fashion sense? No beating around the bush this week, folks. I didn't get anything out of the serial. I don't know if it was being weird for the sake of being weird, but there's definitely something going on beneath the surface in this one. Exactly what that is, I couldn't tell you. I was not intrigued by the setup. I was not invested in the plot. I was not captivated by the performances. Everything just struck me as a bit 50-50. The sets were nice, but unfinished. Are you telling me there's just this big white void of nothingness behind the elaborate cave entrance? For every standout character, there was an actor who was delivering a performance that just felt a little off. This one in particular kept throwing me off. He's clearly a good professional actor, but for some reason made the acting decision to deliver every single one of his lines in a super fast yet still articulate manner. Not like he was rushing. It was just a weird thing that kept distracting me. Distracting me like this costume choice, or this character as a whole. Yes, I know, we'll get to him later. Honestly, watching this for the first time was a bit of a throwback to the early days of my review series. Not in terms of like the quality of the stories, but because I fell asleep while watching Snakedance. Yeah, I used to do that a lot during the black and white era. I'd be working so much, doing late nights, and some of those old serials with the high episode counts would just drag on, but far out, I can't remember the last time I nodded off during a 4-parter. So, in the spirit of fairness, I decided to start it again from the beginning the following day, which means I watched the first 3 episodes twice. It did not make a difference. Sometimes in life, it doesn't matter how many times you force yourself to consume a piece of media. If it's not for you, it's not for you. Whether that be a video game, a movie, an album, or a classic Doctor Who serial. But knowing my luck, this one's going to turn out to be one of my regular viewers' favourites, and I will have offended them personally. Sorry, again. I assume there's a lot of subtext going over my head. I feel like this requires a lot of mental filling in the blanks on the viewer's behalf in order to get the most out of Snakedance. Am I just making up excuses for this serial? Oh, absolutely. But I also want to find an explanation as to why I don't feel like I got the complete picture of what the creators were going for. Speaking of incomplete, the story itself is incomplete. The entire actual ending is a deleted scene. It's nuts to think how the traditional story conclusion that wraps everything up all nicely in a bow was cut. Like pretty much every deleted scene, I know it was removed for the sake of the runtime, but still it's so jarring to have such an abrupt cut to credits. If you watch this, or rewatch it, make sure to play the deleted scene in the bonus features to see the proper final few minutes of the story. It wouldn't be the first classic Doctor Who serial to have an unsatisfying sudden end, but still. It is at this point in the script writing process that I am completely stumped. I am not linguistically gifted. I do not have an expansive vocabulary. I have no idea how to talk about this story. This video is gonna be rough. Look, for my first viewing, plus the 3 episodes I rewatched, it was nothing special. An absolute nothing burger. It felt like watching Castrovalva for the first time all over again. I must have sat there for so long trying to think of anything interesting to say about it. And even now, I don't think I've contributed to any discussion about this serial. I've experienced quite a lot of these kind of classic Doctor Who serials now. Ones where I have such a non-existent reaction, then I struggle to come up with a halfway decent review script. I start to wonder, is this the one where I finally throw in the towel and put out a half-assed 2-minute video where I just say, I have no thoughts? But every time, I'm proud of the fact that I do somehow manage to make a review talking about it. This one, however, came so close to being that throwaway review, but no, I persevered, and now I have no idea how this video will turn out or how it will be received. Just know, this was a struggle to put together. If I like a serial like Power of Kroll, Four to Doomsday, Tomb of the Cybermen, then I'm so enthusiastic about it. And if I watch something that blows my mind with how bad it is, like The Mutants, then even then I've got a lot to talk about. But every now and then, there'll be a story that's so bland, or I just don't resonate with it at all. I start to think, how the heck am I going to get a review of this done? Forgive my incoherent rambling, please allow me to ramble a little more on a slightly different but still sort of tangentially related topic. I am very particular about my wording when it comes to making sure I'm coming across as subjective and that everything I say is solely my perspective and opinion. With that in mind, I cannot outright call this one bad because I wasn't engaged enough to pay full attention throughout. Across the internet, especially here on YouTube, there is a massive difference between calling something objectively confusing and stating subjectively, I found this difficult to follow. I didn't follow it. It bored me. But not in a typical way where a story just drags on and on and on. I just want it to get to the point already. No! It was just like everything I was watching didn't trigger a single neuron in my brain to activate. Tell you what though, it certainly made me appreciate Kinder even more. I recall enjoying that one enough, but for goodness sake, at least that had a decent subplot, standout characters, a sense of dread, not to mention the fun, silly balloon snake prop. This one is just prophecy, talking to a mirror, artifacts. I was honestly shocked when I learnt that both Mara-centric stories were written by the same person. Because while Kinder felt like a writer trying some bonkers ideas and themes that got rejected or reeled in by producers, Snakedance, by contrast, felt like there was no connective tissue. Derivative, generic gobbledygook that I couldn't make heads or tails of, and honestly couldn't be bothered enough to try. Even the dark, foreboding atmosphere is kinda present, but just feels different, off, far less effective. The whole time I'm just sitting there, watching, wondering, why is anything happening? And even when an explanation comes, I'm still just like, yeah, but why though? Because a story has to happen, obviously, but I'm just trying to explain my mindset. I got nothing from Snakedance. The only fun part of watching this for the first time was getting to revisit the Season 20 trailer, The Passenger. Although that ended up frustrating me too, because it starts off as beautiful fan service, then pulls the rug out from under you like, psych, none of that just happened, also the Mara is still in Tegan 40 years later and there's no definitive conclusion. I know it seems silly to complain about a trailer of all things, but hey, I would argue that these short films they make to accompany these collection box set trailers are cute, canonical stories. So why make something that seemingly answers questions, but instead just makes more and leaves everything up in the air? I'm still thinking about it, but I'm done talking about it. Ah well, this video is already all over the place, so why not add in a dumb little personal story time? For years now, a couple of my dearest friends have had this odd little thing they do. Being siblings, you know, they obviously have their own in-jokes and references, and one of these stims, I suppose kids these days would call them. Listen to me, I just turned 30 and I'm already sounding like a boomer. One of these little odd sibling things that they do was a chant that I would never question But it's always lived rent-free in the back of my head because of how odd it was. You know, it was like, Martin Clun, Martin Clun. And I'm always like, what is that? So, when I see there's a bloke named Martin Clunes, or Martin Clune, I'm forever mispronouncing names. When I see that name in the cast list for Snakedance, I suddenly remembered that. And so I think, hey, I'll ask them, like, hey, is that the name you were chanting, or is it something completely different? I thought maybe it might have been from something like Bow Selector or Come Fly With Me. 2 shows I've never seen, but I know that's the kind of telly they grew up with. I was not prepared. Yes, it turns out they were indeed directly quoting a scene from that old British telly show, Come Fly With Me. And the characters were really just chanting the name of actor Martin Clune. And no, I will not be showing that clip or any screenshots from it because it is super racist. The old Brits have some whack telly. And that little story time where I learnt the origin of one of my friend's many little in-jokes was 100 times more entertaining to me than Snakedance. Oh yeah, elephant in the room, Doctor Who meets Doc Martin. Yeah, I know, fascinating. Take this out of context clip to distract you from this mess of a review. Alright, I think I've rambled on long enough to make a decent length video. Wait, this is longer than my last 2. What is wrong with me? Final note on this serial, addressing a comment one of my regular viewers mentioned a while ago. Andrew Bowman pointed out under my 4 to Doomsday review that going forward the show would get a tad more visceral, which was exemplified at the end of The Visitation, where the Pterodactyl, I think it's called, the alien died in quite gory fashion. Well, both Omega's death last week and the Mara's death here, while not quite as gruesome as The Visitation, were both still a little bit more graphic than usual. Are we just going to be seeing a lot more alien blood on screen in this era of the show going forward? I'm not particularly for or against it. I know younger me would have hated it. I used to despise blood and gore. Nowadays, I understand it has its place in media. Whether that place is in classic Doctor Who, well, I'll leave that to each individual viewer to decide. Personally, I just think it looks a bit gross. I feel bad for kids watching this at dinner time back in the day. Right, that's everything. I really hope I haven't pissed anyone off with my thoughts on this story. I've tried my best to stay as subjective as possible, but I truly have no interest in ever revisiting this one. Sometimes when I finish a nothing burger Doctor Who story, I'll hop onto the bonus features and watch some behind the scenes material and find a newfound appreciation for it. Or I'll read up on the production and have what the story was trying to go for explained to me, and I go, oh, that's it. Maybe I'll gain a newfound appreciation on a rewatch. This one was the first one in a while where there was none of that. Finding out the backstory behind my friend's weird little in-joke and a deep dive into the 4-minute The Passenger trailer movie short thing was the extent of any brain function I got from this. I hope Snakedance resonates with some of you out there. I'm sure I'm being grossly unfair to this story. And I also hope that over this long-as video I've managed to explain why it just didn't do it for me. And I hope next week is a lot more my scene. Oh my golly gosh darn goodness, thank you so much for watching, and I am so sorry. Tune in next week while I review Mordwin Undead. Mordwin? Great, another one for me to mispronounce. But it's a new box set though, so that should be pretty exciting. Now if you'll excuse me, I'm going back to my regularly scheduled existential dread at being 30.